Hi, and welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to create these front pocket inserts, which are commonly seen in jeans. So if you want to learn how to make them, just follow along with us. So let's get started. In my example of creating the front inserted pocket, there's going to be three parts to it. We have the front, so this is the front of whatever your garment is, pants, short, skirt. Then you have the pocket facing, and then you have the pocket. So these are the three different parts, and because I'm doing two pockets, one on each side, I need two of each piece. So I need two of my front, two of the facing, and two of the pocket. And if you look on your pattern piece, it'll tell you exactly how many to cut out of each one. You're also going to want to make sure that any circles or marks you have on your pattern pieces, you transfer them to each of your fabric pieces, and also all the notches. These are definitely going to be important in the placing. For example, we have this notch and these marks. They're going to match up the marks in the notch up here at the top. So that's where we're going to start working up on our fabric pieces. So let me get those out and then we can move on. The first thing we're going to do is attach our pocket facing to each side of the front. So here's my front, and I actually have two of my front pieces and they're stitched together in the middle. So here's the top of my shorts. These are the side seams here. This is the center front. And right here is where we're going to be working. This is where we're going to attach our facing. Here is one of my facing pieces right here. And if you'll look, you'll see there's a flat top here, and then it kind of curves here. And you should have two of these. So I'm going to match this area with this area of my front. So again, here's the top, here's the side. So right in this area right here, I'm going to flip this over so it's right side to right side. And I'm going to match up the top edge of my pocket facing with the top edge of my front. And I want to make sure, again, remember I talked about transferring your marks? It's hard to see because you're so far away, but I have a mark here and a mark here on my shorts, mark here on my facing, and I'm making sure those are matching up. And also my notches here are lining up. So once I have this side pinned, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So here's my other facing, right side to right side, and I would, again, match everything up and pin it. Once they're both pinned, you can go ahead, take it to your machine, and you'll do whatever seam allowance your pattern calls for. So in my example, I'm going to do a 5/8 inch seam allowance, attaching the two pocket facings to the front of my shorts. And you're just stitching from here to here. That's the only part you have to worry about. When I stitch the facing to my front, I'm just doing a regular width stitch. Don't forget to do a back stitch on both sides and just sewing at my seam allowance. So that for me would be the 5/8. After you finish stitching your seam, which I've done right here, you're going to go ahead and trim and clip these little notches. And what I mean is my seam allowance was actually wider than this when I finished, and I just went along. I kind of trimmed it, so I left about 1/4 of an inch, and then I clipped these little inverted notches about 1 inch apart. This is because you do this whenever you do a seam on a curve, so when you flip your garments or flip your piece right side out, it's not going to get all bunched in here. It's going to lie flatter with these little notches here because you're taking away some of the excess. So once you do that, you're then going to take your facing, and you're doing this on both sides, and you're going to press it out. So you're going to see the right side of both pieces. Here's my facing, here's my front, and they're being pressed away towards each other. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take it to my machine, and I'm going to stitch an understitch, which is going to be a stitch that's really close to your seam that you just created, but it's going to be on the side of your facing. So no matter what side you're working on, whether I'm working on this side of my pants or the other side, I'm always going to do that stitch on the side of the facing. So I would stitch right along here as close as I can get to the seam. So I'm going to move a little closer so you can see what that looks like on my machine. So again, as I'm doing the understitch, here's my facing, here's my front. So I'm sewing on the side of the inner of the facing, trying to get as close as I can to the seam line here. And I'm just doing a regular stitch, nothing fancy. Make sure to do back stitch. And just going all down that seam you just created. And this is essentially going to attach our seam allowance to the back of the facing, and we'll keep our facing on the inside of our pockets. Just helps create that nice crease there. So once I get to the bottom, I'm going to do another back stitch, and then I'm going to do the other side. Alright, so I finished doing my understitch, and this is just the other side of my shorts. I just keep switching between the two sides. And my understitch is right here, right alongside my seam. The next step is you're going to take your facing and you're going to turn it so it's going to be on the wrong side of your front, like this. And you're just folding along that seam line, and with the understitch it should fold pretty easily. And see how it's, now the facing is hidden behind the front. And you can go ahead and press this so you have a nice crisp edge. And then what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch now, which is similar to an understitch. I'm just stitching along this fold line, trying to get as close as I can to the fold line. It's going to create a nice finished look to this inside edge of our pocket. As with the understitch, when I do the top stitch, I'm just doing a regular width stitch and I'm back stitching on both sides. And I'm sewing right along my fold line that was created when I turned my facing to the inside of my front. So here's my fold right here, and I'm just sewing right along there. And again, I'm going to do this to both sides because I have two pockets and they both need to have this nice finished edge. I flipped my front over, so this is the wrong side of my front, and you can see the right side of my facing here, which now is lying nicely on the wrong side. So the next step is we're going to take our last component, and that is going to be our pocket piece. And I know it looks similar to our facing, but there's a reason for that, because they're going to line up on one edge. So I'm placing my pocket right side to right side of my facing, making sure that the curves here are going the same direction, so they're going the right way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pin my pocket to my facing only, so I'm not pinning through my front, just to the facing with my pocket, all along this curved edge here to here. So you don't have to worry about pinning here, 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 just along the curved area. And I have a notch here, a double notch, and I'm making sure those are lining up to here. And I'm going to do my seam allowance, doing a regular stitch, back stitching on both sides, and that is gonna be what's gonna close our pocket at the bottom. So that's how we complete that. And don't forget, I'm gonna also be doing it to this side as well, since I have two of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin this. I'm gonna stitch it, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm gonna take my garment and flip it so the right side is facing up. So here's one side of my shorts and the other side. Here's the pockets that we just attached to our facing. So if I was to flip this over, here's my facing, here's my pocket, and you can see it's attached here. I'm going to flip it back over to the right side. And what we're going to do now is we want to make sure that all three of these components, they stay together for when we're stitching the rest of our garment together. So I'm going to line them up, matching the raw edges at the top. So it's going to be my front, my facing, and my pocket. Line it up so this corner and the top matches, and I'm going to pin it. And I'm going to make sure any markings or notches line up. So here I have my notches. All three of them are going to line up. Pin it. And I have a marking here on my pocket and here on my fold. I'm going to make sure that lines up. Like that. And you're going to do this to both sides. So I'm going to do this on the other side as well. And then you're going to come down the side of the pocket. And again, we have a pair of notches here. So we need to make sure those match. Pin it. And I have another mark here in my pocket, here in my fold. Those line up. And going down to the bottom of my pocket and putting a pin. You can also do this inside seam here. Do a pin, and you can see I've already done it to this side. That side's already pinned. What we're going to do after you pin it is you're going to go to your machine and you're going to do a basting stitch. So that's going to be the largest stitch you have on your machine. And on each side, so I'm going to go up here, I'm going to pivot, I'm going to stitch up along the top, pivot again, come down and stitch down here to where my pocket ends, which I have a mark here that I made for my pattern, which shows that. So the same thing on this side. Start here, stitch up, pivot my machine, stitch across here, pivot again, stitch down, ending here. So since it's all pinned, I can go ahead, take it to my machine, and I can stitch all that down. When doing a basting stitch, you don't have to remember to do a back stitch because this is just going to be a temporary stitch to hold all of these elements together until we put our final stitches in, which would be working on the waistband or doing a side seam. So I'm just doing a stitch to tack them all together, and that's why you don't have to do a back stitch or anything like that. Remember to do them to both sides. So when I get to this corner, I'm going to keep my needle down, lift my foot, pivot my fabric, and then go along the top. With my basting stitch done, I now have a new defined edge up here for my side seam, and it extends also my waistline up here. So that completes our pockets. The pockets are now done. Now, of course, my shorts aren't done, but the pockets are done, which is the main thing. Now that everything's basted down, you can actually stick your hand in there and you can fill your completed pockets. And that's all there is to it. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 100 sewing video tutorials. New tutorials are released regularly, so make sure to subscribe to be notified of the next release. Thanks for watching!